everyone, welcome to Unleash with Megan. I'm Megan Rovnak, your host. Unleash with Megan is where we dive deep into the art and science of overcoming challenges and achieving remarkable results. I'm joined today by Linda Berkheiser. She has an amazing story that I cannot wait for her to share with you. The things that she's experienced in her life and the decisions that she's made and the path that it put her on, I think it will be extremely valuable for you. And I really appreciate her coming on today to share her story with us. Everyone has a story, and I want to hear yours. Linda, today we're going to hear your story. Thank you so much for joining us. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, thank you for inviting me to do this, first of all. Yes, I'm starting out just basically telling you some basic things. Again, I'm a baby boomer. I was born right after the war. And, we are different people. We are people that really thought we could change the world. We could do some things differently. And I think we've always had that spirit growing up. And I'm a helping person. So again, I leaned towards nursing, and did a lot of things in nursing. I'm a mom, a grandmom. So I've lived a really full life and I've learned to be a business person too. So I'd like to tell you my story and some of the lessons that I've learned through it, because I think our life is just a series of learning. And if we ever stop learning, I don't think we can survive very long. I think we need to learn. So anyway, so the things that I found because of a life changing experience, which I'll tell you about as we go on, but I really learned to face fears, to accept help from others, which was very difficult for me, setting priorities and problem solving, finding a way that will work, and also being grateful. So my story starts many years ago, maybe 40 years ago. We were a very happy family. I got married, the love of my life, Rick, who was just an incredible person, made me laugh every day, played music for me every day. And he was a leader. He was a leader, ended up in excelling in anything he did. He was in the military. He was a captain at 25. And we went on and we just thought this was all normal stuff in life. We were very adventuresome. So, we had two little boys. We adopted two little Vietnamese girls. And part of our adventures were we decided at one point we were farmers, which lasted for a few years, but we loved it. So we moved to Pittsburgh about 40 years ago, and we're very happy adjusting to everything here, even though we weren't on the farm. And then all of a sudden, one day there was a terrible accident. It was a backyard accident. My husband, he was very agile. He played three sports at the time, but he was cut a branch out of a tree, and he was thrown out of the tree, hit his head on the garage roof, and then went to the ground. And when he hit, he was a quadriplegic at that point. So needless to say, take a deep breath, our lives changed a lot. We lost income. We lost stability. We lost what we thought was our future. We thought we lost everything. And then we went through a whole period of and I say we, because I did experience it with the family, but I went through a period of fear, cried a lot. We actually grieved a lot, just like you would if you lost a person, because we lost part of that person he was. And then we had anger, why us? Why did it have to be us? We were such nice people. I don't know if that's really appropriate, but I always thought that way. If you're really nice, it shouldn't happen to you. But I had a lot of fear, but I felt like I had to be positive for my kids. Probably the worst thing that I ever had to do was to sit them down and tell them that, their dad was not going to walk again. He wasn't going to walk again. He couldn't do the activities with them. He couldn't be part of the scouts. They couldn't go canoeing. They couldn't go camping. And it was really, really terrible. I will say that that probably took the most inner strength that I had to do in anything. But beyond that, I just found that, I had to be positive and go forward. So I ended up buying a house, buying a van, remodeling things. And then we set a lot of priorities in our house, and we tried to problem solve, well, if mom can't do this and this and this, well, then these kids could do this and we could do that. And of course, they kind of were upset at the time, but everybody kind of pulled their own weight. And what was beautiful was when they came home from school, they would go and check on their dad first, because their dad would be here. We'd have help part-time while I was working. And then they would check on their dad first, and then they would do whatever. And he was a stay-at-home parent, basically. So it was kind of a different way of living. And of course, during that period of time, unfortunately, I decided that I was Wonder Woman, which was a mistake. But I felt that I could just do it all. So it was time to move. And I know how to move. We moved all the time, blah, blah, blah. I arranged things. And then people would come to me and say, my good friend had a moving company, and he said, Linda, I am moving you. And I said, oh, no, no, I'm ready. I have 3 trucks coming. I have boxes. And he said, oh, no, I am moving you. And then it made me realize that, and some other things made me realize that it was good to accept help. I had a friend who was a minister, and he said to me, Linda, people are trying to help you and you're blocking them. You're not letting them help you. They are grieving for him. They're hurting for your family, and you're being selfish. Well, that was the worst thing he could have ever said to me, because I never thought he was selfish. And I really had to take a deep look at that. And I did start to accept help. He said, when you accept help, you are helping them. You are honoring them. So I thought, yeah, okay, I don't have to be Wonder Woman. It's okay. So let's change that. Then there were health problems that came because, unfortunately, my husband always had an opposite reaction to every medication. And he came out of the rehab center with like 25 medications, and everything worked the wrong way. So we were in a dilemma. As a matter of fact, that first year, I did not think he would live the first year. And I'm optimistic, but I didn't think he was going to make it. As a nurse, I didn't think it was going to make it. And my health was bad too, because I was at the point of exhaustion. So my husband would say, don't let her sit down. If she sits down, she falls asleep. I learned later that that was a real true sign that you were completely exhausted. um, but sometimes when a door closes, a window opens, and I believe that more and more every day. And so by accident, we met these people. My daughter was a gymnast. We went to the gym because they were having a special program, and we met some wonderful people that were involved with the Shackley Corporation, which I sort of heard about, but I didn't really know anything about it. And she said, did you ever think of having your own business? And of course, I looked at her and said, well, no, but to be truthful with you, we don't know if we have a future. We've got kids. We don't know if they have a future. We might look at anything. I mean, I was real open. We'll look at anything.
Yeah.
And so we did. And we thought, you know what? We're going to just try these products. Well, first of all, the next fear I had was telling my husband that I invited these people to come over to our house, because I thought he was going to kill me, because he just wasn't quite ready. He just didn't understand. But they came over, and we decided at that point to well, let's just buy into this. We'll buy some products. If we don't like them, we'll never tell anybody. We'll be real brave. We won't tell anybody. But we tried them, and everything seemed to work, which was so good. And then after, so we changed our cleaners, we changed our lifestyle, and then we realized that we could change what he was doing. So if there was a product that didn't work for him, and this is a lot of if you can't make it work, you find another way. And we looked at the natural and said, what can we give him naturally that might do around the same thing? And it was amazing. I mean, within a few months' time, we were taking out products, we were taking out medications, putting in products. And at one point, we had him down to one medication for years, and he was on one medication for years. Now, doctors at first were a little hesitant, and then they said, we're not really trained in this. We don't really know exactly what you're doing, but whatever you're doing is working. So go ahead and keep doing it. And which we did. And what I loved about it myself is that, as I said, I'm a nurse and I research everything, and their research was wonderful. And I thought, oh God, and if it's working for us, okay, we can be brave and tell other people. And that's what we did. So we told other people so that they could make their own decisions. And we went on, and actually, of course, my kids had issues that turned around. It was really neat. We had the whole family doing things and doing safe products. And again, if I ever slipped up and bought the wrong thing at the store after I told them what was right and wrong, they accused me of trying to kill them. And I said, no, I'm not trying to kill you. I made a mistake at the store. I'm sorry. but I had them so tuned in that it was wonderful. And they all are still avid Shackley users today, which is good. So we went on and developed a great business. We saw our kids graduate from high school, graduate from college, get married. Uh, we have 7 grandchildren. I mean, so we just went on with life, and it was wonderful that we could do that, even though we did things in a different way. And we always had to learn to do things differently. And he had to be the center because we had to always make sure that things would work for him. Luckily for us, he was a beautiful person. He was so positive. He made me laugh every single day. And he passed away about 10 years ago. And probably I miss that the most. Laughing every day and playing music for me. And he would always have something new for me. And he was an active partner in my business, which became bigger and bigger as time went on. So I had to do a big adjustment when he was gone. But I really think that, we had 30 years with him. He was in a wheelchair, but he had a wonderful relationship with all of our grandkids knew him. And as a matter of fact, they were so cool about understanding disability that one day I found that 2 little grandkids in my basement in the extra wheelchair wheeling around. And I said, "What are you doing?" And they're saying, "Oh, we're playing hospital. Playing like we're playing like Bop Bop, which is what they call them. We're playing like Bop Bop. We're playing hospital." And I realized that he had given us a gift in so many ways, which is really good. So when I go back and I really think about it, there was a lot of growth. Now, because I was more of the main income, I had a chance to be in the business world. I actually owned another business before Shackley, and lots of good things, lots of good experiences. But my best experiences were learned through this terrible disaster that we went through. And and if I could share anything with you, I would say, through it all, facing fears was a big part of it. Facing your fears and facing the fear of the future, being positive, putting those blinders on and going forward no matter what, and helping your kids to learn that. And they are all wonderful people. I have a wonderful family. Being grateful for wherever you are. We were so grateful that we had my husband for 30 years. And actually people used to say, "Oh, you're just so wonderful for doing this." I said, "No, no, you don't understand. This is like a partnership. This is a partnership, and we work really well together with this whole family. And I don't couldn't do this without him." I mean, he's like an inspiration to me for sure. Accepting help, which was really difficult for me. And I hope all of you can do that, because sometimes I think we think, we can always handle things. We don't think of the other person. But I've learned to think that, the other people that are trying to help me are important. And I've accepted help more readily. Um, Again, besides being grateful, I think it's interesting that we I became a problem solver, and I think our whole family did, because we always thought, if you can't do it this way, maybe you can do it another way. And I'll share one more story that I thought was so sweet. Shortly after my husband was hurt, my oldest son was in high school, and he was going to not the prom, he was going to homecoming, and he was taking the homecoming queen, and she was in an accident. She didn't care. If she became homecoming queen, she was going to be the queen. So he came and said, "That extra wheelchair Dad has? I think I can wheel her out onto the field, and she can get her crown and be homecoming queen." And I wanted to cry, because I thought, okay, they're really learning. They're accepting and they're learning. And that's helping me too. So, again, all of those things that I've learned, I hope the facing fears, accepting other people, being positive, I hope this is helpful to someone that listens to this. And that's probably all I have to say right now.
I'm confident it's going to be helpful to someone who listens to it, because I just listened to it. And it's a lot of good reminders, and other people that listen to it, I'm sure will feel the same way. So, one of the topics that you touched on, the accepting help, what the Wonder Woman syndrome, right? And somehow letting go of that and recognizing that, number one, not only do you not need to do it all, you don't have to do it all. But there's somewhere, because I absolutely have experienced that over the course of my life, and have struggled on numerous occasions, and people are like offering, for some reason the knee-jerk reaction is, "No, I got this. No, I got this. No, I got this." And I don't know, I don't know. I'm sure there are psychologists out there that would love to explain to me exactly where that comes from. I think for me, some of it comes from being Gen X and, growing up being very resilient and sort of managing myself and my life and all of that. And I think that's a very Gen X kind of thing. And there are a lot of us out there like that. But it's not just Gen X, right? It's much bigger than that. And what you said really resonated with me because I've had conversations with people about this. It's not just about accepting help, because that's very important, but it's understanding why it's important beyond the fact that you should be accepting the help.
Mhm.
It's about the person offering the help. And people really forget that. For years when I was working and people would retire or leave the job, they would be like, "Oh, I don't want to have a party. No, please don't. Please don't." And I'm like, the party's not for you. Like, that's nice. I appreciate that. But and you saying that, and you don't want anybody to go through any trouble and all of that. But you need to understand that party is really for the people who appreciate you and want to do something for you. So it's a form of accepting that, right? It's not exactly the same as accepting help, but it's accepting that what you're doing is actually as much for the other person, or maybe even more for the other person than it is for you. And you're absolutely right. And I'm happy that your pastor said that, because I think a lot of people don't hear that. They don't understand that accepting help isn't necessarily for you. A lot of times it's because of the other person.
Right.
So as you've kind of accepted that and implemented it, were there any other times where it was a really hard one to be like, yes, I will accept your help? Like, did you find did it take a while for that knee jerk of, no, I've got this, to sort of fade away?
Yes. Yes. I'm a very stubborn person. I would go back into it, and then every once in a while I would realize, wait a minute, stop yourself, stop and look at what's really happening. And, if you really want to help the other person, you will do that. You will help. And just like you said, if somebody's retiring, probably that party is necessary for those other people because they know they're going to experience a loss, and they want to remember something good, before they lose that person out of their company, or whatever they're doing. Yeah. No, yeah, it's still a challenge for me. But I think when I wrote this, it was good because I remembered how important that was. And I do tell other people that too. I try to tell people how important that is for them, because we do. We're raised in a society where we just think we should all be wonderful, but we're all very human. We all have things we're going through. And I always say the other thing I always say is, don't think that everybody else has it easy and you have it hard, because everybody has something. Everybody has something they're going through. They just may not tell you, or you may not see it, but that's, ours was very evident. So I said, in our family, my sister and I laugh, even our extended family, she goes, everybody goes through something. She goes, but ours is just a lot more evident.
It's apparent. People
People
can see it,
are going
right?
through a lot of stuff.
Yeah, you're not going to
Yeah.
keep that from people if they
No,
spend time with you,
no,
right?
no, not at all. Not at all. Yeah.
There were a lot of parts of your story that were impactful for me, and health journey, your health journey, your family's health journey, your husband's health journey is part of that. Can you talk just a little bit about, you touched on it, but could you talk a little bit about the transition from sort of drugs and pharmaceuticals to more natural options?
Mhm. Well, um, again, I think it's because we are problem solvers as well as medical. Like my husband had a master's degree in rehab counseling, and I was a nurse, and I worked in rehab. I worked in rehab. We were like a hit when he was hurt. Here she is, the rehab nurse and the rehab counselor, and he's in Harmerville. Well, in a rehab. He's in a rehab, and we're trying to help them. It was kind of difficult. But what we looked at is, and the only thing we couldn't get him off was things that caused spasms, because he still would have spasms. But things that would help the urinary tract. There were just so many things that they wanted. They were so because we are a country that is based on so much medication. We're the most medicated. I think we're probably the most medicated country. when I talk to people from other countries, I know I did some seminars with people from Europe, and they said, we don't understand why your country doesn't do anything natural first and then go to something stronger. We don't understand why you go right to the drugs because that's the way we're oriented. So, if you look at a lot of these medications, there are natural, I don't like, we ended up using things like alfalfa. Alfalfa is great for a lot of stuff, but it helps your urinary tract, it helps your GI tract. So we went for a lot of basic things first, and then, just tried to see how much the basic would get us and then add to it. And he did take quite a bit. He used a lot of protein, used a lot of things for so that his skin wouldn't break down. Um, just so it's hard to say specifically. And the other, I'm looking back on it because we just took everything. He just took everything. And if it was something that we thought he needed more of, the nice thing is we were healthy people to start with. We were very healthy. We lived on a farm. We never used medication. So this was so foreign to us and he was so damaged. He did have arm movement and he could never move himself, but he had arm movement. So he cheated and was able to use a computer. And so people never realized that he was as damaged as he was. But we've traveled. We just took all our supplements and traveled and took our protein and
Just took everything, took it all with you.
it was just wonderful. We just took it with us. Yeah, we just do whatever we could do. Yeah. So yeah. And basically that was it. Yeah.
So if people wanted to learn more about you or your journey, how could they do that?
Okay. Well, that's a great question because I do have a very active business yet and very, just a very healthy business that has helped me in retirement. Because remember, we went from we thought we'd never survive, and I'm basically debt free, and I'm in my 70s. I'm basically debt free. I have a good income from my business and also from some other things that we've done, and it's amazing to me. It's just amazing because I should be destitute. I'm not, and I'm not. So the thing is, yes, you can. I have a website, and you can go onto my website. One of the way I like people to start is I have something called Miology, and it's our company put it together. A lot of scientists worked together on this for a long time. And based on a questionnaire, family history, and some of those things, they're going to tell you, basically, these things should be included, in whatever you're doing. And we try to be open and say, if you don't want to do ours, fine, but we know these work. Um, and as I said, I've been very impressed with the research. I mean, astronauts use our products, Olympians use our products. I mean, anybody that wants to do something extraordinary usually comes to our company because we have such a strong research arm and they figure out things that will work for them. So if they do a little thing called Miology, they'll get an idea of what they need, and then we can talk. And what you get with my business is you get me, unfortunately, or fortunately, you get me. And so, I'll check in, see what you're doing, ask a lot of questions, see what you're willing to do, see what fits in your budget. But I would say to you that anything that you can do, any steps that you can take nutritionally will help you because most people will laugh and say, we know our diets are depleted. We know that the ground doesn't have what it had before. We know that they're putting a lot of additives in our food. So we have a lot of things and a lot of pollutants in our environment. We have a lot of things that our bodies are fighting. And you can't just eat anything. You have to watch diet, but you have to also know that the the normal diet is not going to make it for people. So I love to work with people. I would love it if you would look us up. Now I don't know if Megan, I know I did give you a link, but I don't know if you have that or we can add that to it. Yeah, because if you do the Miology or if you get on that site, then you'll connect it to me. And chances are I'll be in touch with you and say, can I help you? What can I do? What would you like to do? I'm not interested in pushing people into anything, but I just know that we can make a difference in the world if we all can take care of ourselves better. And that's what I choose to do. I also had a meeting yesterday. I do community wellness groups that are kind of fun, where people get together that are really interested in just living better. And we did something yesterday on immunity, and it was participation. Like, okay, what do you have to do for immunity is sleep. Okay, this is what I know. What do you know? And then everybody contributed and said, I do this, and I do this, and I do this. And it's really fun when you are not afraid to share with people. So if you know something that works for you, please share it. I mean, obviously, we want it to be as natural as possible. We are a big proponent of the environmental working group, and they'll tell you what is a pure product and what isn't. And most of our products are on there. So that's a good thing to do. But it's just good to share, and because we want everybody to be well. We want everybody, even if it's just, hey, now I'm taking a multivitamin. I would say great, because you have a chance now to make better cells, better body. You have a chance to make a better body if you have a really good multivitamin. But they're not all good, so you have to be selective and not pay like $1 a bottle. If you want it, you can't get them at the dollar store. That I'm not to. I can buy some things at the dollar store, not vitamins.
Not vitamins, right?
Yeah. Does that answer your questions?
Yeah, that does. That's really helpful. I appreciate that. So I feel like your experience, where it led you, the things that you learned and have implemented in your life are really amazing. So thank you so much for being on here, for sharing your story. I think that it's absolutely worth taking the assessment. I think people need to understand what they could use more of wherever they decide to get it, understanding what their body could use more of. You don't realize, especially if you've felt poorly for a long time, you start to think that's normal, and you don't even realize that you actually don't feel well, because you don't remember, or you haven't experienced what feeling good really feels like. So wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us. I encourage people to reach out to you and try the Miology. It's just a few questions, and see what they get out of it, and give it a shot. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us today. And remember to share your stories, share your experiences, help other people, and join us for the next episode of Unleash with Megan. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Megan.